Hello chaps, Paul Curran here. I hope you and all the listeners are well. It had been my intention today to dedicate Poetry Corner to three female poets. However, I have mislaid an anthology of one of the poets' works, and I'll have to leave that for another Poetry Corner contribution. In searching for the anthology, I happened upon, however, a book by E. Cummings. And today's theme is quite adult. Let's first hear a bit about Edward Estlin Cummings. He was born on October the 14th, 1894, and lived until September the 3rd, 1962. Often styled as E. in lowercase. He was an American poet, painter, essayist, author, and playwright, and he wrote approximately 2,900 poems, 2 autobiographical novels, 4 plays, several essays, often regarded as one of the most important American poets of the 20th century. Cummings is associated with modernist, free-form poetry. Much of his work has idiosyncratic syntax and uses the lowercase spellings that are also attributed to his name. This is an untitled poem of his. I like my body when it is with your body. It is so quite new a thing. Muscles better and nerves more. I like your body. I like what it does. I like its hows. I like to feel the spine of your body and its bones and the trembling firm smoothness, and which I will again and again and again kiss. I like kissing this and that of you. I like slowly stroking the shocking fuzz of your electric fur, and what it is comes over parting flesh, and eyes big love crumbs, and possibly I like the thrill of under me, you so quite new. Now, returning to an old favourite of ours, the masterful Philip Larkin, I read in its entirety, and it's not a great long volume, High Windows of 1974, and it's unparalleled, in my opinion, really, with works of the late 20th century. It was written in 1974. Philip Larkin lived until 1985, but he was born in 1922, so he was a man in his maturity then, of course. And the old fools in that edition is really quite startling, and I was left really in shock having reread that poem, so much so that I contacted a good friend of mine, Ed Clark, for his opinion, and we both agree that it is tremendous, and High Windows I do highly recommend. From that edition, and in theme with the Cummings poem that we just heard, I'll read in a moment Annus Mirabilis, which I came to reconsider. It begins, as I'm sure many listeners will know, with the famous, oft repeated first verse of sexual intercourse began in 1963, which was rather late for me, between the end of the Chatterley ban and the Beatles' first LP. Well, in the first stanza there, you get Larkin referencing both a populist and a literary subject. But when I read the poem within the context of High Windows in its entirety, I came to read it very differently and see it as more rueful. And I don't think that Philip Larkin was without intimacy, but I think certainly sex was something that fascinated him, and perhaps even he was fearful of, noting as he does in another poem in the book, the contraceptive pill which had come along perhaps a decade before, and the changes that the permissive society, as sometimes it's referred, had seen in. Anyway, without further ado, this is Annus Mirabilis, but I'll read it as I think perhaps he may have intended it. Sexual intercourse began in 1963, which was rather late for me, between the end of the Chatterley ban and the Beatles' first LP. Up till then, there'd only been a sort of bargaining, a wrangle for a ring, a shame that started at 16 and spread to everything. Then, all at once, the quarrel sank. Everyone felt the same, and every life became a brilliant breaking of the bank, a quite unlosable game. So life was never better than in 1963, though just too late for me, between the end of the Chatterley ban and the Beatles' first LP. Now, not wishing to end Poetry Corner on too sombre a note, again from Larkin's High Windows of 1974. And let's remember that in this edition, elsewhere, he talks of the million-petaled flower that is life. This is solar. Suspended lion face, spilling at the center of an unfurnished sky, how still you stand, and how unaided, single, stalkless flower you pour unrecompensed. The eye sees you simplified by distance into an origin, your petaled head of flames continuously exploding. Heat is the echo of your gold. Coined there among lonely horizontals, you exist openly. Our needs hourly climb and return like angels. Unclosing like a hand, you give forever.